Good morning, good morning. It's a bright and sunshiny day. Hey, so I'm late. I just didn't want to get up. We're still doing devotions, so. Hold on. You coughing. You're okay now? All right, no more. No more. Come on. There we go. Don't give me what for about that. She likes her coffee. That's it. She only had a little bit anyway. Come on, lay down. Remember what I said. There we go. There we go. Okay. Oh, am I keeping you up? Am I keeping you up? It's devotion. Stay awake. Okay, put your head down. Come on, get all cozy. Good girl. Imagine when this room is done, and you can lay on the table and we'll look outside. Yeah, that's why I'm moving that in front of me there. I'll even grab that bed and put it up there. Yeah, this bed that came with the other doghouse. I can put that up here on the thing, and she can lay on there and look outside. You just don't fall off of the table. Okay, I'll teach you how to jump down. Okay, let's get started, everybody. Uh, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, Jehovah, for another beautiful day on your beautiful earth. And thank you for allowing us to wake up today. And thank you for what you did for us in the past, present, and what you will do for us in the future. I really appreciate everything you have done for us. And sorry for when we fall short, but we do try our best. Please continue to help Danielle to get stronger, Tate with his heart condition and cancer, Cindy Lee, Lisa, King Charles, Princess Kate. Oh, you okay? You want to get down? Okay, get down for a minute. Go ahead. No? No, she's okay. Let's start over. Sorry for the interruption. I thought she was going to get sick. Then, Sorry, Jehovah, for the interruption. I apologize. I'll do better. Please continue to help Danielle getting stronger physically and mentally. And continue to help the rest who has cancer and Tate has a heart condition. Lisa's husband don't have cancer, but he has a lot of ailments. Tate, Cindy Lee, Lisa and husband, um, King Charles, Princess Kate, Jen's friend Shannon, and Danielle Fischel, also known as Topanga. They all have cancers, different types, different kinds. And Lisa's husband has a lot of ailments that he suffers through, and Tate has a heart condition. Give them physical and mental strength to fight off the diseases and illnesses, as well as Celine Dion, who has stiff person syndrome. Jenny has a lot of ailments herself. Christina's daughter's pregnant and is having a hard time. Tiffany made her decision. It's the right decision, but it's also usually a hard decision. But help her mentally. um, and help her son mentally as well. Robin, just help her with what they're going through and her ailments as well. Miss Diana and daughters, Arnie, Vicky and family, help Vicky get her strength back. Carol and her mom, please help them. Give them physical, mental strength to get through what they need, physically, mentally, and medically. Oh, your nose is cold. Please help them in the name of Jesus. Amen. You okay? So, are you sure it's 27? Yeah. It's cold outside. Oh, let's see how cold it is outside, guys. Oh, it's only 50. But my brother's going camping. He picks the coldest time of the year. Next year, I want to go when it's hot. Like, because there is a beach over there we can go to. Yeah. I'm sorry you can't go with us. Did you bark a lot, sweetheart? Okay, let's get started. I'll pick you up.
Chapter 27. However, David said in his heart,
"One day I will perish by Saul's hand. The best thing for me is to escape to the land of the Philistines. Then Saul will give up looking for me in all the territory of Israel, and I will escape from his hand."
So David rose up with the 600 men who were with him, and went over to Achish the son of Maoch, the king of Gath. David stayed with Achish in Gath, he and his men, each man with his household. With David were his 2 wives, Ahinoam of Jezreel, and Abigail the Carmelite, Nabal's widow. When report was made to Saul that David had run away to Gath, he stopped searching for him. Then David said to Achish,
"If I have found favor in your eyes, let them give me a place in one of the cities of the countryside, so that I may live there. Why should your servant live in the royal city with you?"
So Achish gave him Ziklag on that day. That is why Ziklag belongs to the kings of Judah down to this day. The length of time that David lived in the countryside of the Philistines was 1 year and 4 months. David would go up with his men to raid the Geshurites, the Girzites, and the Amalekites, for they were inhabiting the land that extended from Telam as far as Shur, and down to the land of Egypt. When David would attack the land, he preserved neither man nor woman alive, but he took the flocks, herds, donkeys, camels, and clothing, after which he would return to Achish. Then Achish would ask,
"Where did you make a raid today?"
David would reply,
"Against the south of Judah."
or
against the south of the Jerahmeelites,
or
against the south of the Kenites.
David did not spare alive any man or woman to be brought to Gath, saying,
that they may not tell them about us and say, this is what David did.
and that was his practice the whole time he lived in the countryside of the Philistines. So Achish believed David, saying to himself,
He has certainly become a stench among his people Israel, so he will always be my servant.
Chapter 28. In those days the Philistines assembled their armies for war against Israel. So Achish said to David,
You know, of course, that you and your men will go out into battle with me.
At that David said to Achish,
You surely know what your servant will do.
Achish said to David,
That is why I will appoint you as my permanent bodyguard.
Now Samuel had died, and all Israel had mourned him and had buried him in Ramah, his own city. And Saul had removed the spirit mediums and the fortune tellers from the land. The Philistines assembled and went and set up camp in Shunem. So Saul assembled all Israel, and they set up camp in Gilboa. When Saul saw the camp of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. Although Saul would inquire of Jehovah, Jehovah never answered him, either in dreams or by the Urim or through the prophets. Finally, Saul said to his servants,
Find me a woman who is a spirit medium, and I will go and consult her.
His servants replied,
Look, there is a woman who is a spirit medium in Endor.
So Saul disguised himself and put on other garments and went to the woman by night with 2 of his men. He said,
Use divination, please, by acting as a spirit medium, and bring up for me the one whom I designate to you.
However, the woman said to him,
You must know what Saul did, how he removed the spirit mediums and the fortune tellers from the land. Why then are you trying to trap me to have me put to death?
Saul then swore to her by Jehovah, saying,
As surely as Jehovah is alive, you will not incur any guilt in this matter.
At this, the woman said,
Whom should I bring up for you?
He replied,
Bring up Samuel for me.
When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out at the top of her voice and said to Saul,
Why did you trick me? You are Saul.
The king said to her,
Do not be afraid. But what do you see?
The woman replied to Saul,
I see one like a god coming up out of the earth.
At once he asked her,
What does he look like?
to which she said,
It is an old man coming up, and he is clothed in a sleeveless coat.
At that, Saul realized that it was Samuel, and he bowed low with his face to the ground and prostrated himself. Then Samuel said to Saul,
Why have you disturbed me by having me brought up?
Saul replied,
I am in great trouble. The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has departed from me and no longer answers me, either through the prophets or in dreams. So that is why I am calling on you to let me know what I should do.
And Samuel said,
Why do you inquire of me, now that Jehovah has departed from you and has become your adversary? Jehovah will do for himself what he foretold through me. Jehovah will rip the kingdom out of your hands and give it to one of your fellow men, David. Because you did not obey the voice of Jehovah, and you did not execute his burning anger against the Amalekites, that is why Jehovah is doing this to you this day. Jehovah will also give both Israel and you into the hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. Jehovah will also give the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines.
At once Saul fell full length on the ground and became very much afraid because of Samuel's words. And there was no strength left in him, because he had not eaten food. When the woman came to Saul and saw that he had been greatly disturbed, she said to him,
Here, your servant has obeyed what you said, and I risked my life and did what you told me to do. Please, listen to what your servant has to say. Let me set before you a piece of bread, then eat, so that you will have some strength to go on your way.
But he refused and said,
I am not going to eat.
However, his servants and also the woman kept urging him. Finally, he listened to them and got up from the ground and sat on the bed. The woman had a fattened calf in the house, so she quickly slaughtered it and took flour and kneaded dough and baked it into unleavened bread. She served them to Saul and his servants, and they ate. After that, they rose up and left during the night. Chapter 29. The Philistines assembled all their armies at Aphek, while the Israelites were camping by the spring in Jezreel. And the lords of the Philistines were passing by with their hundreds and their thousands, and David and his men were marching at the rear with Achish. But the princes of the Philistines said,
Why are these Hebrews here?
Achish replied to the princes of the Philistines,
This is David, the servant of King Saul of Israel, who has been with me for a year or more. I have not found any fault in him from the day he deserted to me until today.
But the princes of the Philistines became indignant at him, and they said to him,
Make the man go back. Let him return to the place where you assigned him. Do not let him go down with us into the battle, so that he will not turn against us during the battle. For what better way to put himself in favor with his Lord than with the heads of our men?
Is this not the David about whom they sang when they danced, saying, Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his tens of thousands?
So Achish summoned David and said to him,
As surely as Jehovah is living, you are upright, and I am pleased to have you go on the campaign with my army. For I have not found any fault with you from the day you came to me until today. But the lords do not trust you. So return in peace, and do not do anything to displease the lords of the Philistines.
However, David said to Achish,
Why, what have I done? What fault have you found in your servant from the day that I came to you until today? Why should I not come with you and fight against the enemies of my lord the king?
Achish answered David,
From my standpoint, you have been as good as an angel of God. But the princes of the Philistines have said, Do not let him go up with us into the battle. Now get up early in the morning with the servants of your Lord who came with you. Rise up and leave early in the morning, as soon as it is light.
So David and his men rose up early in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines, and the Philistines went up to Jezreel. Chapter 30. When David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, the Amalekites had made a raid on the south and on Ziklag, and they had attacked Ziklag and burned it with fire. They had taken captive the women and all who were in it, from the smallest to the greatest. They had not killed anyone, but they had carried them off and gone on their way. When David and his men came to the city, they found it burned down, and their wives and their sons and their daughters had been. So David and the men with him began weeping loudly, until they had no strength left to weep. David's two wives had also been carried off captive, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. David was very distressed because the men were talking of stoning him, for all the men had become very bitter over the loss of their sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself by Jehovah his God. David then said to Abiathar the priest, the son of Ahimelech,
Please bring the ephod here.
So Abiathar brought the ephod to David. David inquired of Jehovah,
Should I chase after this marauder band? Will I overtake them?
At this he said to him, Go in pursuit, for you will certainly overtake them, and you will make the rescue. David immediately set out with the 600 men who were with him, and they went on as far as the Wadi Besor, where some of the men stayed behind. David kept up the chase with 400 men, but the 200 men who were too tired to cross the Wadi Besor stayed behind. They found an Egyptian man in the field and took him to David. They gave him food to eat and water to drink, as well as a slice of a cake of pressed figs and 2 cakes of raisins. After he ate, he regained his strength, for he had not eaten any food or drunk any water for 3 days and 3 nights. David now asked him,
To whom do you belong, and where are you from?
to which he said,
I am an Egyptian attendant, a slave of an Amalekite man. But my master left me because I got sick 3 days ago. We made a raid on the south of the Kerethites, and on the territory of Judah, and on the south of Caleb, and Ziklag we burned with fire.
At this David said to him,
Will you lead me down to this marauder band?
He replied,
If you swear to me by God that you will not put me to death, and that you will not hand me over to my master, I will lead you down to this marauder band.
So he led him down to where they were spread out all over the land, eating and drinking and celebrating, because of all the great spoil that they had taken from the land of the Philistines and the land of Judah. Then David struck them down, from the morning darkness until the following evening. Not a man escaped, except 400 men who fled on camels. David recovered all that the Amalekites had taken, and David rescued his 2 wives. Nothing of theirs was missing, from the smallest to the greatest. They recovered their sons and daughters and the spoil. David recovered everything that they had taken. So David took all the flocks and the herds, which they drove before their own livestock. They said,
This is David's spoil.
Then David came to the 200 men who had been too tired to go along with David, and who had stayed behind by the Wadi Besor. And they came out to meet David and the people with him. When David came near to the men, he asked them how they were. However, every bad and worthless man among those who had gone with David said,
Since they did not go with us, we will not give them any of the spoil that we recovered, except that each one may take his wife and his sons and go away.
But David said,
You must not do this, my brothers, with what Jehovah has given us. He protected us and gave into our hand the marauder band that came against us. Who would agree with you on this? The share of the one who went down into the battle will be the same as the share of the one who sat by the baggage. All will have a share together.
And from that day forward, he kept it set as a regulation and a rule for Israel down to this day. When David returned to Ziklag, he sent some of the spoil to the elders of Judah who were his friends, saying,
Here is a gift for you from the spoil of Jehovah's enemies.
He sent it to those who were in Bethel, to those in Ramoth of the Negeb, to those in Jatir, to those in Aroer, to those in Siphmoth, to those in Eshtemoa, to those in Rachal, to those in the cities of the Jerahmeelites, to those in the cities of the Kenites, to those in Hormah, to those in Borashan, to those in Athak, to those in Hebron, and to all the places that David and his men had frequented. Chapter 31. Now the Philistines were fighting against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines, and many fell slain on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines kept in close range of Saul and his sons, and the Philistines struck down Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, Saul's sons. The fighting grew fierce against Saul, and the archers found him, and he was severely wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer,
"Draw your sword and run me through with it, so that these uncircumcised men may not come and run me through and deal ruthlessly with me."
But his armor-bearer was unwilling, because he was very much afraid. So Saul took the sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he too fell on his own sword and died with him. Thus Saul, his 3 sons, his armor-bearer, and all his men died together on that day. When the people of Israel, who were in the region of the valley and in the region of the Jordan, saw that the men of Israel had fled, and that Saul and his sons had died, they began to abandon the cities and flee. The Philistines then came and occupied them. The next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. So they cut off his head and stripped off his armor, and sent word throughout the land of the Philistines to spread the news in the house and among the people. Then they put his armor in the house of the Ashtoreth images, and fastened his corpse to the wall of Bethshan. When the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all the warriors rose and traveled all night, and took the bodies of Saul and his sons off the wall of Bethshan.
Yeah.
They returned to Jabesh and burned them there.
We'll get 'em.
Then they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree in Jabesh, and they fasted for 7 days.
And that is it. And I will be live later on with, I don't know what. I'll figure out to do something today. So I love you. Love, don't